Good morning, guys. Today we'll be talking about this season's limited unit, Heidemarie. So, Heidemarie is going on for this season 3, and she's a limited unit. She's currently accompanied with Selena and Nia. And as for her partner, which is also a seasonal unit, so do take note that once this banner goes through and finishes, you won't be able to pull them in the standard banner compared to the typical units that you could typically rotate around. As for Sylvia, she's accompanied by Rosaria and as well as Arwen. So just a quick background. Heidemarie is a really good unit. This is a quick spoiler, TLDR. She's a really good unit. She's a ranger, you can see here, as well as a passion unit. So typically whenever you think about rangers, they're more on extra attacks, dual attacks, extra attacks, along the likes. Fighters like Yugo fall under this category. And that's it. So let's look through her cards. Sword Flash. At 100%, I believe in base level, it deals 100% damage. I believe this is on a bigger node upgrade, it gets additional plus 30% damage amount to Effulgent Blade. So just so we can get it over with, Effulgent Blade is her primarily niche thing, or the thing that makes Heidemarie more unique. It has a new tag called Linked. When this card is used manually, all succeeding links or any other link cards on hand or in hand get discarded as well. So you might be thinking, why would this happen? What use would this be? So right now, it really combos well with things that have both the quietest tag and text. If you read the card, if it has any condition wherein you discard it, they do X and X things. But for Effulgent Blade, which is a 1-cost card by the way, it deals 150% damage when this card is discarded, 151 extra attack to a random enemy. This card cannot be moved to draw pile on shuffle. So do take note that once it gets used, this means that the card stays in the, I believe, in the graveyard. This could be, I could understand this incorrectly. However, given how Heidemarie plays, you'll more likely be able to create a lot of that Effulgent. But otherwise, let's look through the other things. So this Sword Buyer, this typical defensive card option for all the characters. Now Sword Rain. Sword Rain is a 1-cost attack card, and it has innately the linked tag. It deals 101% damage times 2, and on attunement or whenever you draw this card, you create 1 Effulgent Blade. This is the base card version, and we talked about Effulgent Blade earlier on. On upgrade or on Epiphany, the first one gains a quietest tag, still retains 1 cost card, and it also creates an additional Effulgent Blade. So I talked about earlier how Effulgent Blade is the real bread and butter for Heidemarie. So on paper and in practicality, this first Epiphany for Sword Rain is one of the best takes that you can get. And having quietest means that you don't necessarily have to focus a lot on the attunement aspect for it. That's a major trade-off, I guess. Whenever I guess that's a real thing that is quite something sad. You're typically going to use this card specifically, I guess, as a means to trigger any of the linked card effects. But the fact that you have attunement on 2 blades is really good. It could be an issue. So do take note what that means. So I'll just summarize it again. It has linked and quietus, and on attunement, whenever you draw this card, you create 2 Effulgent Blades. Heidemarie has many means of drawing her own cards. So this is still a really good option, and I think it's one of the best ones you can pick up. Second one, it gets a 2 cost, so from 1 becomes 2. It loses the linked tag and gains haste, so whenever you play this card, it does not consume an action count for the enemy, if I remember correctly. Yes. It deals 200% damage, so this is an increase. It loses the second hit, but mathematically, it's I guess it's 25 more damage, and it adds 1 hit for each effulgent blade in hand. And on attunement, it still retains the original create 1 effulgent blade. So it being 2 costs is quite hard to abuse. Heidemarie is one of the more more mana or action point intensive characters. She has a lot of means to abuse that fact. But if you have a means to create a lot of effulgent blades in a singular turn and then play this card, this could be really good for Heidemarie. However, I still prefer the first one over this. The third one, it's still a 1 cost skill card. It loses the linked and quietus effect or tags. However, the effect changes as well. So it activates 5 effulgent blades in graveyard against the target as an extra attack. So once again, Heidemarie is a ranger, so she benefits a lot from extra attack. She does a lot of extra attacks through her own mechanics, and she scales well with it. So given this, as long as you have an effulgent blade in your graveyard, so if you have 0, this card is practically useless. But if you have at least 1, it's still really good. And it plays quite really well. So there are other builds that could potentially stem out from this. This is my second favorite Epiphany among all of the Sword Drain options for Heidemarie. And it's really fun to play against. You can duplicate this a lot during your sorties or whenever you're trying to build your deck. Number 4, it's a 1 cost skill, but it loses Quietus and Linked. Creates 2 effulgent blades, then apply retrieve to those cards. So when you play this card immediately, instead of putting it in your once you use those effulgent blades, it returns back to your hand. It's just a pretty good way to I guess the issue here is that you're spending AP or your mana to create effulgent blades, and it being retrieved isn't too important to how you're typically going to play Heidemarie. Okay, number 5, Sword Drain. It becomes an attack card this time, but costs 3. It gains the tags of Exhaust, Finale, Retain, and Unique. So do note that whenever you have Finale, you want it to be the ending card to play. And it being Exhaust, once you play this card, it's already gone forever for the entire match or the battle. It has Retain, so you can keep this card on hand until you use it, and Unique. You can't duplicate this card. It deals 600% damage, I believe, on base, but in here, it's 630% to all enemies. If Effulgent Release is in hand, this is one of the mechanics that she has. We'll talk about it later. Exhaust it, and plus 100% damage amount to discard for each Effulgent blade in the graveyard. So let's say you have, 100 Effulgent blades. You can see it deals like 10,000 more additional damage. This is a very niche, extremely niche card, and you're banking on the fact that you want to create. You need Effulgent Release first and foremost, and you need infinite number of Effulgent blades in your graveyard in the first place. So if I were going to rank it, number 1 and number 3 would be your S tier. I'd also say the base form is pretty good in itself. That would be a good option to put in your S tier as well. So you have 3 options to pick from. The rest, I wouldn't think too much about it. So, for example, the 2 and 4, this would particularly be in B tier. And then for the 5th Epiphany, it would maybe be like a C tier. They all have their own uses, but if we're going to talk about practicality standpoint, 2, 3, and 5, 2, 4, and 5 wouldn't be too good. Okay, let's look at her ego skill right here. It's a 5 cost Ego skill. It deals 600% damage plus 100% amount for each card discarded this battle. So for the entire battle, Heidemarie's thing is discarding and drawing cards. So eventually, if the battle goes on a good certain amount of times, and you're trying to cycle around the deck through Heidemarie's kit, you would be essentially getting. So it's 100 times 30. You'll be getting 3000% damage. So it becomes a 3.6 damage ultimate. It's a really, among all of the damage ego skills, this has to be one of the best ones, although it is very conditional. Okay, Hero for All, or Hero to All, which is in on base form, a one cost skill card with the tag Quietus. So whenever you discard it, discard activated. And do note that discard meaning you use a skill to discard this card. So it draws 3 and applies link to those cards for this turn. So you draw 3 cards and you apply link to all of those cards. So you can see that there's certain combos that you can do other than Heidemarie yourself. For example, if you play Diana or Renoa on top of the head, or perhaps Nia, any of the cards that have either quietus or conditions stated in the cards that when on this card it does an X effect, it benefits the having this card or applying link to those cards. Okay, let's look at the epiphanies. The first one, Linked and Quietus. It's still a one cost card, but it does get the Quietus trait. So it being linked allows you to not play this card on hand, so you're saving 1 AP. And the fact that it's a 3 draw card, it's really good. It's one of the best ones you can pick up for Heidemarie. The second one, it's still a 1 cost Quietus. Draw 3 cards, apply link to 1 cost or lower cards in hand for this turn. So this is a very niche card. So once again, characters that benefit this would probably be units that have those conditions where, for example, if we're talking about Diana, she has a lot of bullets that are 0 cost, but they innately have Quietus if you have a certain card in Diana's kit. So once you apply Quietus to those 0 cost bullets, this card would shine a little bit better. Otherwise, it's still a very niche epiphany upgrade to choose from. Number 3, it becomes a 0 cost and gains the tag haste, but it loses the Quietus. Draw 1, but apply link to Quietus cards in hand for this turn. So this is a really good means. Once again, Diana, for example, who innately plays around Quietus tags. So the playing this card alone, along with Diana, allows her to be more of a support character, wherein you create the bullets that have the Quietus, and then you play this card. You're essentially not minding all of the shenanigans that Diana needs in order to play those cards effectively. So this is a really good card, and it pairs really well for Diana, for example. So, but do note it's specifically for Quietus. So Heidemarie herself has Quietus cards as well, but Renoa, for example, doesn't have this mechanic. Okay, number 4, a 0 cost skill, exhaust 2, but it gets a new effect wherein you select 1 card from your draw pile or discard pile, then apply linked to that card and move to hand. So this is a really good card to tutor or specifically target a card in your deck or in the discard pile, and apply link to it. So there are a lot of things that benefit this, especially on Heidemarie's kit herself, and it's a really good way to not needing the condition where you have to play a certain card to apply link, and you have to do it all over again. You're permanently applying link to that card. So it's really good. So number 5, it's a 1 cost haste card. It loses the Quietus tag as well, Draw 2 attack cards of this specific unit, Heidemarie, and apply link to all attack cards in hand for this turn. So you're basically trying to play around Heidemarie's attack cards more specifically, and you're not removing any action count for the enemies themselves. So typically you'd see this for like, you really want to play this along with Sword Rain with that has attunement, right? So this is a pretty alright card. I personally don't pick this up, but if we were going to rank all of these cards, the best choices in my opinion would be 1 and then 4. Next would be 3 and then 5. And then for like D tier, it would probably be 2. So S tier would be 1 and 4. Again, A tier would be 2 and 3 and 5, and then D tier would be 2. So again, Heidemarie is a very flexible character. Just pick however you want to play her. And she's actually very sufficient by herself, other than, needing a healer, for example. Next, Thread of Light, which is a 1-cost attack card. It has innately the tag linked. Deals 150% damage on upgrades, plus 120 damage for each link cards in hand. So you can see how Heidemarie is playing out so far. And she really benefits from having linked. Okay, first upgrade. Since it's of course the typical first upgrades, it gains more damage on the first one, and then second one it gains plus 180 damage for each link card on hand. I believe this is 108% on base 4, 180% on without the upgrades. It's a pretty alright card. It deals a lot of damage if you play around the fact that you want a lot of link cards in your hand. Number 2, it becomes a 2-cost cards and gains the haste. It deals 378% damage if 3 or more cards in hand triple the damage amount. So you could imagine it being like around 1100 if the math is correct. But it doesn't have the scaling potential of the first one, for example. But it's still a really good solid card if you're trying to not play a lot of link cards on hand. It being 2 costs is quite detrimental, but it's still a really good card to consider whenever you're playing like things like Sortie, for example. Number 3, the 1-cost attack card. It gains Quietus. It lowers the damage to 126, maybe 100% on non-upgrade. If this card is in hand or graveyard, plus 180% damage amount to link cards. So you can see the combination here. This is a great means to buff Effulgent Blades. And it being like having Quietus along makes it a really consistent ways in buffing your Effulgent Blades. Really good card to pick up. Number 4, it becomes a 3-cost skill card. Linked, it gains linked and exhausts as a tagline and activates all link cards in hand without discarding them. This initially had issues when Heidemarie was first released, or it wasn't working properly. It being 3 costs makes it really expensive to play, and having it be exhaust makes it like it's a really hard card to play. Maybe if you apply Quietus to this, there could be a method to this, but there is no means to doing that. It's a really hard card to play, and I personally rate it really low in the pickup. Number 5, it becomes a 2-cost attack card and gains the unique when used manually. So when you play this card by yourself, it doesn't have Quietus or you don't use the link effect on it. When used manually, deals 350% damage on base. On upgrade, it becomes 441 damage times 2. So it becomes, for this case, 882. And when this card is discarded, you deal 378% damage. I believe on base it's 300%. So this card has 2 means of playing it. When you discard this card specifically, you deal an AoE. When you play this card manually, it becomes a single target nuke. But do take note, this is a 2-cost card. But Heidemarie being a more, you're playing around Effulgent Blade, yes, and Effulgent Blade innately is a single target character. So playing this card with the intention of going AoE doesn't seem, it seems a little counterintuitive. So if I were going to tier, S tier would be probably number 3, A tier will be number 1, and then C tier would be 2. Don't bother with 4 and 5, in my opinion. Be sure to pick this up, always, if you're planning to play around Effulgent. Next, Effulgent Expansion. So it has a 2-cost skill card. It also has a Quietus tag and creates 2 Effulgent Blades. So other than, like, of course, Sword Rain, which creates Effulgent Blades, this is another means of creating those. And it plus 50 damage amount to Effulgent Blades for 1 turn. So whenever you play this card or whenever you play Quietus, for example, you're typically, if the card alignment is correct, this will always play first before it does any Effulgent things or Effulgent Blade shenanigans. Okay, first one. It gains the linked tag, still a 2-cost skill card, creates 2 Effulgent Blades and plus 70 to Effulgent Blades. It gaining link makes it a really easy card to play. You don't need to use any other means to grant it linked. Really good card, really simple, amazing. Try to pick it up. Number 2. It's still the same 2-cost card with Quietus, but it gets 200% damage to the next Effulgent Blades. So it's specifically only 2. So at a certain number, let's say you have infinite number of Effulgent Blades on hand, which is impossible. But for this theoretical scenario, the first one would still scale much better, so much better. And it not having linked innately could be an issue unless if you of course, apply link to it. But the thing that will benefit it the most would probably be the first Epiphany still. Number 3. It doesn't have the Quietus tag and create Effulgent Blade for each link card in hand. So these are very conditional basis, and it having the condition of being linked in hand makes it a very inconsistent means of creating more Effulgent Blades. I wouldn't pick this up personally, maybe skip it. The base form is probably better. Number 4, still a 2-cost skill. It has linked and Quietus, could be good, and create 6 Effulgent Blades in discard pile. So this specific Epiphany upgrade pairs really well with the Sword Rain that activates 5 Effulgent Blades in the graveyard, and those two pair really well. It is also, you can see, like, having 6 Effulgent Blade immediately created is a really good way to generate those cards. However, it not being in your hand makes it a little convoluted. Not necessarily convoluted. You have to go around about means to playing those Effulgent Blades. So do take note of that kind of scenario. You really want to pair this with the Sword Rain that activates Effulgent Blades in the graveyard. Number 5. 2 costs and becomes an upgrade card. It also has a Quietus and Unique, so you can't duplicate this card. At the start of the turn, create 2 Effulgent Blades plus 50 damage amount to Effulgent Blades. So in an ideal scenario, you want one of this copy and you want one of the copy for Epiphany 1. This is a really good upgrade, and it makes generation of Effulgent Blades really consistent. And so you really want to get this if you could. And it being a permanent upgrade to damage amount to Effulgent Blades makes it a consistent way of increasing your DPS. Okay, so this is the unique ultimate card that Heidemarie has. Initially, you get this card Effulgent Compression, which is a unique, linked, retrieve 3, non-playable card. And it has a card effect of when moved to graveyard, create one Effulgent Light. So Effulgent Light, this is underneath Heidemarie's HP bar. When Effulgent Light stacks a tree, change from compression to release. This is a unique card, and it deals a lot of damage, quite frankly. 882% damage on with unique upgrades, exhausts all Effulgent Blades in graveyard, then one plus 120% damage amount for each exhausted card at the end of the turn. So you want a huge stockpile of Effulgent Blades, right, in your graveyard, and then play this card for a really big boy damage. I say it's a really good card and really fun to play with. The animations is really good as well, by the way. Okay. All right, let's talk about the partners. So let's be frank. Sylvia is honestly the best partner that you can give to Heidemarie. There are other options that you could take as well. For example, I believe her name is Sylvia, which is one of the Battle Pass characters. Maybe Rosaria, who is typically one of the better Ranger partners that you can go for. DC as well is pretty good. The 3-star, I believe, the Rat, Nakia, is pretty good as well. So for the partners such as Solia, I don't have her. Over here. She increases attack damage, of course. She grants damage amount, extra attack to the assigned combatant, and has the ability to do the draw. However, her ego skill is kind of lackluster in that regard. If you look at the 4-star Daisy, she has the same effects wherein she buffs the attack, grants increased damage for the extra attack, and whenever they do draw, they do the additional morale. However, her ego skill is kind of lackluster as well. Although the additional morale is pretty good, the shield is kind of whatever. As for Rosaria, has the same things. Additional attack, increased damage on extra attack, and whenever you play upgrade or skill card, which frankly Heidemarie does quite often, gives 1 morale. However, once again, her ego skill is lackluster, or in the purpose of Heidemarie, you'd rarely use this other than like the upgrade card that Heidemarie has. Now, if we look at what Sylvia does and contributes to Heidemarie, she gives attack 16% on upgrade, and then applies linked cards as her ego skill. If we read through her passives, each time the assigned combatant, linked cards are used manually or discarded against a Zephyr stack, which is a unique passive. When Zephyr reaches 3 stacks, you only have to discard twice per turn, grants plus 20% crit damage to the assigned combatant. Wow, 20% of crit damage? Amazing. As for Zephyr specifically, plus 15% damage amount to the assigned combatant's passion attack cards, max of 3. So it becomes 45% on attack cards, any attack cards. You can see how she's really good. Not to mention, she has an ego skill, field overview. Select up to 2 cards in hand and apply linked. If a selected card in the assigned combatant link card, plus 10% critical damage to the assigned combatant for each such card instead. So do take note, this is a permanent linked tag to a card. And that alone, in conjunction to how Heidemarie plays, makes her a must-pull partner in this case. That she's limited, she's really good, and she benefits Heidemarie so much. And not to mention, she's one of the better-looking partners as well. So let's talk about potentials. As always, you want to pick up the biggest node here. This is what grants the plus 30 damage to Effulgent Blades to the basic cards. Really good. You want to pick up critical damage, critical chance, upgrade unique card upgrades, really important for Heidemarie's case. As for the other cards, the third big note over here, if Heidemarie's attack is greater than 600, plus 5% passion attribute damage for every 20 attack above 600, up to 10%. So you're getting additional damage amount to passion cards. Really good pickup. Next would be basic card proficiency. This is an all-right card, but your main goal is going towards Divine Epiphany over here. So once again, your priorities would be picking this up, picking this up, picking these up, and then upgrading all of these three as always. This is typical upgrades for your potentials. Now let's talk about the memory fragments or the gear. So for my case, I chose the Prelude, which is the latest set for Heidemarie, just for convenience sake. However, one of the better, one of a good alternative would be this Conqueror's Aspects, which grants on 4 set plus 35 critical damage of 1 cost cards. All of Heidemarie's cards, including Effulgent Blades, is a 1 cost card, so she really benefits from this. However, her new set, Prelude to a Hero, when a Passion or Void attribute attack card is used, of this unit is discarded, plus 15% crit chance for 1 turn, up to 2. So this is 30% crit chance. And crit chance is one of the more important stats in this game. So you really want to pick this up. As for substats, she benefits a lot from extra damage, she benefits a lot from crit chance, and she benefits a lot from attack. So your priorities would probably be getting as much extra attack, getting as much crit rate, and then you can pick up the crit damage, attack percent, and attack. As for your main stats, you would probably get your crit chance for your neck, passion damage for your chalice. You could also choose the attack percent for your desire. And then finally, for your imagination, you want to get attack percent. Quite straightforward. And try to get as much extra damage as possible in crit chance. Ego Manifestation. I am lucky enough to get E6 of Heidemarie because of how I really like her design. But her entire kit and how she plays made me really want to own her. So for the first one, Sleeping Memory, plus 200% on damage amount of Effulgent Release. That is her ultimate card. It's not too important to pick up. And the added damage amount for each Effulgent Blade in Graveyard becomes 120%. Originally, I believe it's 100%. Correct me if I'm wrong. Second one, Awakening Memory. At the start of the battle, move Effulgent Compression to the hand. So, because it has retain, and because if it has retrieve, on a singular turn or in 3 turns, you can make it into a Effulgent Release. So it's really good means of playing that card, and it allows a little bit of thinning of the deck. And not to mention, there's other effects to this, which is at the start of the turn, gain 5 Crimson Blade. When a link card is used manually or discarded, 120% extra attack to the enemy with the highest HP. So it's targeted to a highest HP. And when activate, decrease Crimson Blade by 1 with a max stack of 8. So if we do the math correctly, this hits 600%. And here it says max 8 is because I have other dupes for Heidemarie. So let's look through that. Vivid Memory. Oh, by the way, the second Awakening Ego Manifestation, E2, is one of the better upgrades for a lot of the combatants. And for specifically Heidemarie, this is a really good pickup. So if you have Omega codes, you could consider picking this up. Number 3, Vivid Memory, plus 200% damage to Elysium of Blades, which is her ego skill. And change the 8 plus 80% to 100%. From originally max 20, I forgot to take note of this beforehand, it becomes max 30. This is why the damage amount is really good amount. It's a straight up AoE damage buff. straight up big damage nuke. It's not too important. However, it's still a really good ego skill to have. It's not our priority, however. Number 4, inner memory. When manually using or discarding Heidemarie's link cards, gain 1 effulgent chain, and you get plus 50% damage amount to Heidemarie. It's additive damage increase, and it's not too important, but it's a really good means of buffing Heidemarie's damage herself. If I were going to say, if you want to go this specifically, maybe not. Number 5, typical stat upgrades. Liberated Memory, E6. Chains created effulgent blades to all attributes. So what happens is, it gains the effect of having that elemental advantage. If you're familiar with games with like Epic 7, these are really beneficial things. You're more likely to crit, I believe. And it granting that kind of aspect to the damage makes it really beneficial. So other than that, each time Crimson Blade is activated, plus 40 at max, plus 480. This buffs your E2, and it's a really good thing. So if I were going to be pulling, it would probably getting Heidemarie at E0, and then getting Heidemarie at E2 alone. If you're as lucky as me, try to get Heidemarie or Heidemarie at E6. This is a really good jump in damage. It's really big, it's really important, and it makes her more feasible in the later on. However, E2 is enough, E0 is enough. Heidemarie is that good. Okay, so let's talk about save data. I've talked about how Sword Rain and Hero to All dictates how you want to play Heidemarie. For my case, Effulgent Expansion dictate how you want to play Heidemarie. One of the builds that you can particularly go for is going for Sword Rain with this kind of Epiphany, activates 5 Effulgent Blades in the graveyard, and then going for Effulgent Expansion wherein you create 6. Your duplicate goal would be still be multiple copies of Sword Rain. As for your gear, oh, and don't forget, Thread of Light. You want the 3rd Epiphany. This benefits a lot. If you have the chance, you should also pick up Effulgent Expansion, wherein it grants the additional damage to Effulgent Blades, as well as creating more Effulgent Blades as well. That's a really good thing to consider getting. However, if you're only having limited amounts of duplicated cards, you want more copies of Sword Rain. So, one good thing about this season's thing is the Persona cards. So, there are multiple types of Persona cards. And I think specifically for Heidemarie, the things that benefit her a lot would be either getting this card too, and then for each plus 60, because 120% for 1 turn. And since she has Quietus, she benefits a lot from this. The other would be the draw 2, and if for each draw card you deal coordinated attack, that's pretty good. And then maybe for your additional like Umbra effects, when this card is discarded, is pretty good. When attack card is draw, is pretty good. Increased damage attack of cards by 30%, really good. And it's a good way to like, you either choose the Persona card where you draw more cards or you discard more cards. Pretty straightforward, and you want the Persona engravings to be beneficial to increasing our damage. As for your gear, for this one specifically, since I create a lot of Effulgent Blades, right, this specific Umbra upgrade is really good. And a Singing Sword is one of the better equipped weapons you can pick up. For the current event chaos, Key of Sleep is pretty good, which is a plus 40 damage to attack cards when target of attack card is 2 or more. You reduce sting damage. It's a key that with a moon on it. Really good card to consider. Another would be Order's Baton. And then as for your gear, I had the opportunity to get Wings of Light. Grants me crit chance. And then I still have the 40 or more cards in graveyard. Gain more morale. This is really good. Another good would be Another good armor would be like the Masks of Emotion. The hairpin thing is pretty good. Chains of Obsession. If you're familiar with how one of the popular builds for Cassius and the combo, really good. As for your accessory, Golden Rule is pretty good. One of the newer equipment, Hymns of Singing Lips, Steel of Heresy is also good as well, which grants vulnerable. Whenever you discard 3 cards, you apply vulnerable or mark. Really good. So what other builds can you go for, Heidemarie? Another good way is going for this. Sword Rain, First Epiphany, or Sword Rain base form. So you want multiple copies of this, and then you want Hero of All to draw those cards. So this is the typical scenario wherein you want to play Sword Rain as your main DPS cards. This is the Order of Baton I was talking about. This grants morale on extra attack. Heidemarie does extra attack. You gain infinite morale. Really good engravings to pick up. Mask of Emotions, you grant resonance to the attacker when you're attacked. Pretty good. This is an okay engraving to pick up as well. And finally, Amorphous Cube, as always, is a really good option. And this is the other Persona card I was talking about. A good alternative for Heidemarie. So, a lot of things were said about Heidemarie. Would I recommend pulling her? You should definitely pull Heidemarie. I personally like her design. Her kit is innately fun. It's very unique kind of design when they introduced Linked. Originally Quietus through Diana, and then Linked through Heidemarie. And her damage is really quite similar to Serenial. And not to mention she's a limited unit. But as always, pull who you want. But for me, this is a must pull, including Sylvia. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. One. Two. Anything? Shot. No. 3. Another fucking play. Should be around here. There we go. Almost like you just pull him. And then you do. Okay. No, it's okay. Body different. Unfortunate. 42. 52. Just guaranteed. Hopefully we get that. Wow. Nice. Okay, so I just have to pull Sylvia. Nice. Now, what they just need to do is... Thumbs up. We don't make it. Here as well. Partner. 承知しました。待機しておりました。ご用期待以上の成果をお見せします。期待以上の成果をお見せします。期待以上の成果をお見せします。期待以上の成果をお見せします。はい、入る前ですよ。Okay, good or bad? Yo, I still wanna go. Sure. There we go. I break. One. Nice. Any events? So with 30 E4, I think I need one more. Anything from here? Nothing too much. I guess we want to put it. 50. Oh. I break. Hit. Yes. Nice. I just played for week. And same goes for her. Alright, that's it guys. Thanks for coming by.